my dear friends, namaste and welcome in Spiritual Talks. Today we are going to talk so many things about the teachings of Paramhamsa Yoganand So very soon on January 26th, Ananda Sangha group is going to held a program called How to Achieve Glowing Health and Vitality. So here I welcome Dr. Aditya ji, who is an MBBS doctor and he's been dedicated medical practitioner. Since joining Ananda Sangha in 2008, he has tirelessly contributed to the Pune community and he is a director and trustee of Ananda Sangha India, and he has trained even TMTC, Tata Management and Training Center, Infosys, Amdocs, Apollo Hospital and Metro. So, Dr. Aditya ji, please welcome.
Thank you, Kavita. Very nice to be here.
Thank you for accepting this request. Aditya ji, before going into our discussion about program and this entire interview, could you please tell about yourself? You've been into medical profession. How did you jump into spirituality and what really drive you?
Well, yeah, it's a good question. You make me think of my journey a little bit now. But on one level, these two subjects of healing and spirituality are more or less one and the same, you can say. World over, if you see many spiritual organizations, they are involved in healing, in prayers. They may start a hospital and things like that. But for me, yeah, it started seeing my father, who was a doctor in the army. I saw him from childhood. He was many times having night shifts. So ambulances would come home, he would be going out. So I remember then I started asking him where he was going, where was he at night, and he would then tell me of different cases that had come. And even when I was in primary secondary school, 4th, 5th grade, I was asking him about more probing questions. I remember once he told me somebody had a heart attack. So I learned what is a heart attack or a snake bite, accident cases. And then, of course, the next question is, how are they? And sometimes he would mention the person did not live, did not survive. And that spontaneously would make me think of, I would ask him, do they have families? How many people in the family? How will they manage things now? And I remember my dad saying, I don't know some of these details. But it made me think, by God's grace from an early age, how important health is. And then, of course, as I progressed further, I found myself, gravitating towards the profession of becoming a doctor. My practice, my post-graduation was in rural surgery. It was, interestingly, India's first pilot project. I was at St. Stephen's Hospital in New Delhi. And what happened at that time was, I saw how people who don't have so much money, how do they, in a rural area or they are in a far-flung tribal area, how they manage their health, what are the constraints they have. So I worked with charitable organizations, I worked with some philanthropists. I was, of course, getting training at a very high-end tertiary care center in New Delhi, St. Stephen's Hospital. So I saw both sides. But here's the thing, finally, I saw, as a doctor, you see a lot of death. And once again, just like when I was a child, I asked about the family. I remember when I saw, this one particular death in the emergency, I clearly remember it. My question was, where did this person go? Imagine, you're talking to somebody, they're trying to tell you something, and suddenly they are gone. Sometimes in your arms, on the bed in front of you, while talking to somebody. So that made me think that something has happened. And of course, I asked 1 or 2 professors and they said, you're thinking too much. The person is dead. They died. What else happened? But somewhere I thought something else has also happened, which I don't know, and they also don't know, looks like. And then I found the book, Autobiography of a Yogi. Oh my goodness. If you have friends, and Kavita, if you have not read that book, I would highly recommend that book. It talks not only about health, exercise, diet, some of the things we will talk about today, fasting and all that. But death itself, how do you approach death? And Yogananda says there is life continues after death. The physical body has died, but astral body, the soul's journey, you might say, through those bodies continues. So for me, that was the answer. Somebody finally gave the full answer. And Yogananda ji gave techniques, believe it or not, how to commune with those who've left the body, or if not even talk to or see, how to feel their presence, how to be comforted. Anyway, I won't go in the detail of that subject, but you can see now how that interest, I still have that interest of telling people about whatever little I know, whatever I've read from Yogananda ji's teachings and other scientific teachings also of diet, fasting, exercise. But then comes death. Even if you've had a wonderful, healthy life, 120 years, 150 years from now, we will all leave the body. So when you do leave the body, where will you go? What that means? For me, those answers are very important and I like to share that. So I made the switch. I met Swami Kriyananda ji, a direct disciple of Yogananda. And here I am, 16 years later, practicing and trying to share these teachings.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you started your journey, I think, in 2008, right?
That's right, yes.
So you made me also think about this point, death, which I always think, and we will discuss it further. So let's go into today's discussion about what is health. And as this program is all about healthy life, vitality, and how to balance all these things. So please share about health.
Yeah, so, fortunately, I have seen 2, 3 definitions of health change, let's say coming from WHO or classic textbooks of medicine. I remember again when I was in 6th grade, I was sitting with my father's medical books and they were from 1970s. And actually, the definition of health by and large is the same, but one component that was missing in those definitions, which is now very much in, you might say, WHO's definition also, I believe, is there has to be, for example, when we think of health, there is physical health. Somebody got a healthy body. Your body, as Yogananda ji said, is like a luxury. You're happy to be in the body. You're happy. Your body is listening to you, obeying your will and doing what you have to do and accomplish through it. Then there's the component of the mind, that the mind has to be very clear, solution oriented, quick to think, creative, finding solutions to challenges and problems, a stimulating mind, you might say. Then comes the component of emotional health, that you may have a very strong body, but sometimes you may be plagued with anxiety and depression and self-doubts. So what is that emotional health, or chitta, the feelings, the bhav? These are different ways in which yoga addresses that. So how do you identify and how do you strengthen that side of health? And finally, what I was trying to say is spiritual health, which is now accepted in modern definitions of health, just like we were discussing death of somebody else, or even the question, what's the purpose of my life? Why am I here? What's really going on? These are abstract questions which earlier were not in the definition of health. Now they are. And I want to read a very little childish seeming, but a very important definition, how Yogananda defines health. He writes, and this is from a book called How to Achieve Glowing Health and Vitality. I'll be doing a workshop of this very soon in Hyderabad. Yogananda ji writes, health does not mean mere existence. Keeping out of the hospital is not health. To be able to resist disease, to bear strain, to stimulate mental vitality, and to feel the body as a luxury, as a bird feels when shooting through the air, and as a child does always, is health. Just 2 days ago, I was coming from Delhi by train, and somewhere at the Gujarat-Maharashtra border, I came through an area where a very big cement depot and factory was situated next to the railways for the work. And everybody was covered in cement dust, including a little child. But he was just playing with that dust and he was happy. And Yogananda is writing that as a child does always. That is health. And of course, I'm not saying we should play in cement, but health is also a mental attitude. So I feel one should, and people are beginning to now, fortunately, see health in all these terms that, okay, I got my diet, I got my exercise, I have good friends. Now let me focus on the spiritual side also.
Yes, this is very much important, and we need to understand this thing in detail because you've been into medical profession. You are telling about yoga and health, healthy mind, emotions. When we are not emotionally healthy, we cannot deal with our physical diseases also. So, how can one achieve all over health? So, how can we achieve it? Is it really possible? People, they are more into physical thing and stress, um, job and profession. So how is it really possible?
First of all, it is absolutely possible. And in the book Autobiography of a Yogi, I'm reminded of one line Yogananda ji writes over there. He says the Hindu scriptures, but generally all scriptures worldwide share this teaching. He writes over there, but the Hindu scriptures teach that man's first responsibility is to keep the body and mind sound, in sound health for God realization, because let's say if you're just focusing on spiritual matters, now unless you're really very advanced, as they say, which involves a lot of good karma and such from before, if your knees are hurting, you won't be able to sit in meditation. If your body is very weak, as was the case even with Buddha when he tried to go through the very austere path of long fastings, the body becomes weak, and a weak body cannot support, you might say, a strong mind or if you're fasting 6 hours is okay, 12 hours, 24 hours, people start getting groggy emotionally. Naturally, that happens. Most people get emotionally upset also. So what to speak of spiritual matters? So we have to, what I'm trying to say is, we have to strike a balance. Is it possible? Absolutely, it is possible. You asked, how do we do it? Well, I would say start where you are. Think of a college student or a child in school right now, or somebody who is in their 50s or even 80s and are now trying to focus on getting some sort of a balance. What do I mean by that? Well, first would be start on the physical plane. I can speak of my own little journey. From childhood, I have been interested in sports. So I found myself, just as a child, going for runs, going for some walks, participating in group activities of cricket, football, uh, swimming, tennis, running at school. I enjoyed those things. I didn't convince myself that, oh, this is good for me. Fortunately, my parents or teachers didn't have to push me at all in that direction. Now, once we have that covered, then we can focus a little bit more, you might say, and not everybody may be athletic. That's fine. You can focus on walks. Then comes the diet part of things, overcoming those likes and dislikes of foods, or to put it more simply, having a balanced diet. Very easy, commonsensical, depending on your country, culture, your region, eating seasonal fruits and vegetables, keeping it simple, and we may talk about vegetarian or non-vegetarian diet. Yogananda ji, once somebody asked him if he was a vegetarian or non-vegetarian, and by the way, he was a vegetarian, but his answer was, I am a proper Itarian. I love that because diet is a very big subject and people can sometimes make food their religion.
Yes, yes. So what is this spiritual qualities of food?
More important is, if you go to the groceries, look for certain foods that you like, for example, or, because the body tells you. Many times, let's say a child doctor of children, pediatricians, they'll tell the mother or father that your child is doing such a thing or eating these things which are not healthy because they are not getting this in their diet. They have a craving for this or that mineral or vitamin. And it is true. But as grown-ups, you can see that certain foods, your body has that intelligence. It will tell you, try this fruit, eat this vegetable more, go for these pulses. And then after, let's say, exercise and diet is out of the way, then we should do some pranayam. Pranayam is breath control. We are all anyways breathing. Why not learn how to breathe properly, diaphragmatically, how to observe the breath? It affects our brain health in a very big way. It affects our digestive organs in a very nice way. So proper breathing comes over there. Meditation, my goodness. With meditation, your actually breath and heart activity starts slowing down and you become aware of prana. Prana is not really breath. Prana is life force, a subtle energy, almost like an soothing electrical current you can feel in the spine, you can feel in all body parts. And Yogananda ji said that prana enters the body through the region of the medulla oblongata. So what is prana? And pranayam means controlling the prana. So you can increase the prana overall in the body, in a certain body part. And when we can do that, that brings a lot of health. So many people, tell every day, if you read in the newspapers or magazines, they are writing. And I know just a few days ago, I met a person who was on 8 different medications of heart, sleep, anxiety. He started exercising, eating the right kind of food, and 12 years ago, meditating, doing some yoga. Now he has been, for the last 12 years, on one tablet only. Slowly, 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 as his lifestyle improved, his overall health improved, as you are asking, the need for medication goes down. Medicines are good. They are important. They have a role to play. Because we have not, achieved a certain kind of health, medicines help us with that. But we should first try our best. So I feel, again, addressing the physical side of exercise, diet, pranayam, yoga, stretches, the mind through affirmations, for example, being able to change our habits, and meditation. These things can bring overall health. That is, on one level, it looks a little vast, but it's a lifestyle. You adopt it and you see that your health quotient is improving. And yeah, this is what I was saying. So people join a yoga or meditation class and they'll say many times, oh, I used to have hypertension or insomnia, but now I went to a yoga camp and those problems are not. Or my diabetes has reversed, my hypertension has reversed. These are true things, because when prana increases, energy increases, diseases go down. And when prana goes down, diseases go up. And when prana goes out altogether, we are called dead. In Hindi, we would say, उनके प्राण चले गए और उन्होंने प्राण त्याग दिए. Why? Because the prana has gone out of the body completely. So it's all about prana.
Yes, yes, beautiful. So we were discussing about food. I would like to ask you more. What is the right food in terms of sattvic food, rajasic food, and tamasic food? But before that, Aditya ji, could you please elaborate more about the right breathing technique, as you were mentioning about prana, how to inhale, how to exhale, and what are the practices here we can practice in our day-to-day life?
Yes, that's a very good question and a very practical one, and something which can easily help a lot of us. Well, first of all, a good posture, a straight spine is important for, you might say, proper breathing. Imagine if I was sitting like this, or slouching like this. Somehow you'll see right away breathing is not possible in those postures.
Right.
So, what we really have to do is try to keep the spine straight and relaxed. And the spine can be relaxed. We don't exercise our back muscles, they are called the extensor muscles. If we are not used to sitting up straight without the support of a chair, it feels little tense to sit like this. But this is a very relaxed position to sit. The yogis, they can sit like this for hours and days sometimes. So, first of all, a straight spine. Secondly, very important and directly involved is diaphragmatic breathing, breathing from the abdominal area. So, when we inhale, the belly should come out gently. When we exhale, the belly goes in. If you see a newborn baby or little babies when they are lying down, their belly is the main muscle that is moving. It's the diaphragm over there, but it makes the belly move. So that is a sign of relaxed breathing, because breathing itself should not involve effort. If you breathe like this, I mean, it's very energy intensive. So, diaphragmatic breathing. Breathing through the nose is important. Many times people say, oh, it's just a matter of oxygen. Breathe through the mouth or nose, it does not matter. It does matter. Yes, breathing through the mouth is okay if you're doing, let's say, sports or running, things like that. And once in a while, you can breathe from the mouth, but chiefly, breathing should happen through the nose. I won't mention the obvious things of purification, the filtration that happens, and the temperature that is changed in the incoming air. What really, from a yogic standpoint, is very important is when we inhale through the nose, not only the air, but the air currents, they stimulate the front part of the brain. Interestingly, even in medical science, on the top part of our nose, there is a bone called the cribriform plate. It's this very fine bone which has sieves. Cribriform means that which has multiple sieves. And again, very fine nerves of smell and other nerves, they go to the outer part of the front part of the brain from there. But really, what's important for us is when we inhale through the nose, it stimulates the front part of the brain. We'll talk about it later in the talk, how meditation also affects the prefrontal lobes over here. And it increases our ability to think deeply, intelligence on one level, and deeper spiritual perceptions come. So there's a lot one can say about breathing, because then there are different kinds of pranayams for different things. But simple, relaxed breathing, observing the breath, learning how to gently control the breath and then control the energy of the body, these are things that are taught in yoga.
Right. So, you were mentioning about the proper breathing technique, and you said about when we are into athletics or running, that time we breathe through mouth also. So, what is the difference? If we breathe through mouth, doesn't it fulfill the requirement in our body?
No, it will fulfill, of course, the requirement of oxygen. But what I was trying to say is there is more than oxygen that is required for the body. For example, the subtle nerves, the yogis say, which are stimulated in the front part of the brain through nasal breathing. If you're just breathing from the mouth like this, you see the whole system over here is bypassed. Whereas many meditation techniques where you focus on the nostrils, and as it says even in the Bhagavad Gita, nasikagram, the root of the nose, the beginning of the nose. Why? Because the spiritual eye is here, and a very important part of the brain, the chief executive function area of the brain, prefrontal lobes, they are here. And any meditator who has done even little focus over here, they will know that through nasal breathing, that part of the brain can be experienced. The energy over there, deep spiritual perceptions over there, inner light, inner sound of Om, peace, stillness, feeling of greater prana over here, because this is the positive pole of the Agya chakra. All these experiences can come more easily through nasal breathing.
Correct. And I can feel like when I am breathing through nose, I can feel a sense of fulfillment in the entire body. And if I just breathe from mouth, it is like somewhere, half of things are getting fulfilled. Yeah, Aditya ji, and we were discussing about right food. So there are different types of food, sattvic food, rajasic food, tamasic food. What we should include in our food diet and what we should not?
Thank you. That's a good question. I was smiling because I was sitting many years ago, about 10 years ago, with a friend in Pune. He's now, I believe, in his 80s. He was part of helping and developing India's first supercomputer called Param. And I had gone to this friend's house, and he asked me if I'll have tea or coffee or juice? And I said, I'll have some juice if there is. And then he started laughing, and I said, what is it? He said, he said, I'll offer you, by the way, freshly squeezed orange juice. But he said, when you said juice, I was laughing because these companies will say, oh, we've put nothing but orange juice in our packed juice. And he says, and that juice does not go bad for months, Aditya. Whereas if you keep an orange on the table, it will go bad in 2 weeks. And we were just laughing because what happens is, as food is processed, and that kind of heavily processed food is tamasic. When you process a food, what you really take out from it is the life force. Those are the things which make a food alive, and when you take it out, the food is there. Think of chips, for example. Now, I love chips, but in moderation, once in a while. But imagine you open a packet of chips and you say, oh, there's nothing wrong. This is potato and bananas and tapioca. This is perfectly fine. It's the same vegetable. It's like one time I thought opening somebody's grave and saying, oh yeah, he's the same person. I met him 2 years ago. Here he is.
Oh my God, what an example.
Well, it's the same body, but the life has gone out. So it's the same banana, but his life has mostly gone out. So tamasic food actually has a deadening and a dampening quality on our mind, on our health, on our consciousness. Think of excessively processed food, cold storage food, alcohol, or heavily spiced food, pungent food, food where the shelf life is very long. Those kind of foods, if you have too much, immediately you feel like not moving around and the mind is not very clear. Rajasic food is that which is activating, and it can be a good thing. If you're a person who needs to be active out there, you should have some Rajasic foods. Think of like a little bit of garlic or onion. Now, many people on the spiritual path don't take them because excessive use, or in some people, even a little use of these products can stimulate the body too much. And they are trying to become more sattvic, so they avoid Rajasic foods quite a bit. But for some people, like Yogananda said, what is proper for you? What's your job? What's your responsibility? Maybe a mix of some Rajasic foods actually I think is advisable, because we live in an age which is Rajasic, which is energetic. So we have to, if you have those kind of foods, you can operate more easily and in a nice beneficial way. Sattvic foods are foods which have ennobling qualities. They uplift the mind. They actually make us forget the body. Because you see, being body bound, that word kayasth really means body bound. In yoga, you're trying to get beyond the body into energy, into super consciousness, into your soul nature. Yogananda ji used to meditate so quickly and deeply. He used to tell his devotees when they were meditating, he said, now let's dump the body. And he could actually go outside the body or beyond the body. So foods like fruits, nuts, sattvic vegetables, some legumes, pulses, they have a very uplifting quality, and we should have a good mix, especially of sattvic and rajasic foods. Another fine thing I'll mention, because many teachers don't talk about this, but Yogananda ji did. He said, everything in creation is conscious. And he said, he outlined 20 food items, but really all foods have qualities. But for example, he said bananas have the quality of humility. Grapes have devotion, that quality. So when you have those foods, those soul qualities in you can be awakened and strengthened. So that's the power of food is enormous. When people say you are what you eat, they are absolutely right. That food has that effect on our consciousness, our behavior.
Right. So you have mentioned a lot of things, and it's highly insightful, spiritual. Here, I wanted to know one more thing about alkaline food. What is that, and why we should take it?
That's a good Good point. Good question. Yeah, again, think mostly of sattvic foods. And even over there, now, first of all, actually, let's discuss what does it mean to have alkaline food and why is that important? Why is it valuable? Well, our bodies, all doctors will tell you, actually operate, we are alive because the body operates in a slightly alkaline medium. That's the what is called pH, the acidity of the body. It's on the alkaline side. If it gets too acidic, and there are multiple reasons, kidneys, for example, if the toxins in the liver, they are not processed properly or detoxified, or Yogananda ji said, let's say if your windows are always closed, fresh air is not coming, if you're having tamasic foods, if you're not breathing properly, if you're not exercising, if your thoughts are very negative and emotional, and he says, these things increase the, and if your food, like I said, is not good, he says the acidity in the body increases and illnesses increase. Whereas, imagine you're outdoors, the sun is shining, you're drinking enough water, juices, and think of vegetables like carrots or sprouts and legumes and lots of fruits. Those things make the body more alkaline. People talk about alkaline water also. Maybe in moderation that might be good. But we can play a part in keeping the body on the alkaline side. It anyways tends to be there, but we can support it, not increase the load of acidic foods, carbonated things, excessive sugar, and like I said, all those other things. So then the body stays alkaline, and you will see people who have a healthy lifestyle, they naturally don't fall ill. Small illnesses don't come to them. So that's one of the major reasons.
And as our ancestors or old people, they fast a lot, maybe weekly or once or occasionally on Ekadashi. So, what is the significance of this, and do we also need fasting for our body?
We do. And each person again has to see what is their need. Yogananda ji wrote in this beautiful book, that in this book, Glowing Health and Vitality, he said many people dig their own graves with their forks and knives. And one time a person said, really? Who does that? And they thought literally using forks and knives. And I said, no, no. What Yogananda was trying to say is improper eating habits lead to early deaths. We all know that. Overeating, obesity because of overeating, lack of exercise. In 2006, I think it was, I remember reading the Week magazine. I was in Delhi, and they had released that for the first time. Actually, Week also released it because United Nations had released a report. There were more overweight people in the world, in urban areas, in cities, than there were underweight or normal weight people. In 2016, Kavita, that number was 70% of urban adults were overweight. That does not mean obese, of course, it means slightly above the normal range. But the point is, with obesity, many illnesses, including cancer, hypertension, so many other illnesses come. All of this could be taken care of to quite a degree by judicious fasting. Now, what does fasting do? First of all, in 2016, Dr. I think Yohinuri, his name is from Japan. You can look him up. He got the Nobel Prize in medicine for researching fasting. And he had lived through the bombing of Hiroshima in Japan, and getting food at that. First of all, he survived to tell the tale, thank God. But then he said finding food was a challenge. And he, as a child also, he thought, when I grow up, I'm going to research what does the lack of food do to the body. So, of course, excessive lack of food can weaken the body, as we discussed earlier. But overeating also, disturbs the health equation. We get illnesses, as we know. So, fasting, first of all, gives rest to the digestive system. Second thing, do we need to really eat as much as we are eating? Are we eating out of habit or out of hunger? Ideally, we should eat based on the daily requirement. So, but because most of us have the same kind of job every day, eating very quickly becomes a habit. Yogananda ji, on the other hand, used to say, he said, eat only when you're hungry. Let hunger be your guide. For sedentary people, he said 2 meals out instead of 3 major meals. He said 2 meals are enough. So again, fasting gives a lot of rest. It helps our immune system in a big way. It cleans up. Auto cleaning of the body happens because old cells, infected cells, they are cleaned up. They are used up in the body. So there are many benefits of fasting, and fasting does not necessarily mean long periods of not eating food. Skipping a dinner could be a fast. There's a lot of information out there on intermittent fasting. Or instead of late dinners, heavy dinners, having a light dinner, a salad, fruits, only water. Each person will have to experiment. Again, in this book, there are many kinds of fasts suggested. And each person, you work with your doctor and try to work out something. But I have experimented with fasting, and I have seen that, and I have seen many people actually reverse their illnesses, chronic illnesses also, by judicious fasting. So it's a very fascinating subject, and has now been many scientific articles have come out on that. Spiritually speaking also, when yogis, when a person who is trying to practice yoga, meditation, fasts, I have seen that one is able to feel the inner currents of energy more easily. You are able to derive more out of pranayam. But again, it's a fine line. Religious people have been known to overdo fasting, excessive water fasting and all. And Yogananda ji said it can become, like a fanatical exercise and weaken the will power and weaken the body ultimately. So one has to be balanced in this approach. But yes, as you meditate more, the need for food also goes down by and large, and then fasting can help us experience more deeper states of meditation and yoga practice.
So how it really happens, because so many yogis, they either once in a day, or sometimes they are living also on prana. Could you please mention, could you please elaborate more, because this is really very much interesting subject.
Well, first of all, that's a very interesting question. Yeah, thank you. So, first of all, I would encourage whoever is interested in this subject to read 2 chapters, particularly from the book Autobiography of a Yogi. One is the yogi who never eats, Giri Bala. That was her name. Yogananda ji met her. He's asking her a lot of questions, how she does that. She had not eaten anything for 40 years. Anything. And there's a photo of her.
Not even water?
No, I think hardly any water also. And I'll explain how this might work. The other saint he met was Therese Neumann of Bavaria in Germany. There's a photo of her, and she had not eaten for 25 years. All she ate was a little piece of wafer, like a chips, one portion of a bread, that too once a day or once a week it was, on an auspicious day when she used to offer prayers more deeply. But what really happens is, from a yogic standpoint, Yogananda ji said, here's an interesting line from the Bible. Christ said to his disciples, "Man shall not live by bread and water alone, but by every word that proceedeth from the mouth of God." And Yogananda ji explained that line. He said, you see, this is the mouth of God, the medulla oblongata. That is where prana enters the body. One can experience it. When you become aware of some pranayam, and especially energization exercises that Yogananda ji has taught, you can experience that prana coming into the body through the medulla. So that prana is coming in, and it is this prana which keeps us alive. Now, a yogi who has learned to tap into this pranayam directly, or through air, or through sunlight, or through food. Food is also ultimately broken down into prana. Prana is the equivalent of energy. Let's say matter is nothing but atomic energy in the final analysis. Similarly, the yogis say that matter, or breath behind the physical breath is prana, subtle energy. And if you can tune into that prana and learn to control it, and there are some techniques for that, then to that degree, many yogis, like you asked, they need very little food, especially when their sadhana becomes very deep. So a beginner should not do that because it will harm the body, as we were saying. But as you advance more, sometimes it is helpful. I say sometimes because my own teacher, Swami Kriyananda ji, Yogananda had told him, he said, you must have 3 square meals a day. And Kriyananda ji said that he felt that perhaps in a past life he had overdone fasting, maybe to the point of death or near death. So his guru was correcting that imbalance in him by telling him, do some exercise, lead a balanced life, and eat 3 meals a day. Otherwise, he said, your body will not be strong when you are old, of old age. So again, it's through the prana chiefly that many yogis are able to, live without too much dependence on outward food.
So first we should be aware enough how much we need. We should eat that much only. Aditya ji, these days people are, having a lot of deficiencies in their body. So generally for vegetarian people, they'll have lack of B12 and then vitamins. So what do you suggest for these people? What supplements they can take and the importance of sun exposure here? How much it is important, because people these days, they may go for gym, they'll go for yoga, but there is hardly sun exposure in our life.
Oh my God. I am in love with the sun. My name means the sun, and I'm like I tell people I'm like a solar battery. If I'm not in the sun, my percentage of energy charge goes down. Now, one should not be, as a yogi, really dependent on that, but let's accept it. The sun gives life to the whole planet. Plants derive their energy from the sun, animals, all living beings. Yogananda ji said actually the spiritual eye is the inner sun. And he said that's why we meditate and bring our energy over here and brings us joy, clarity of mind, uplifts our consciousness. So being in the sun is very important. Of course, vitamin D comes from the sun, the sleep hormone melatonin. Melatonin is secreted from that. And I think if most people approach the sun in a friendly manner, instead of thinking it's gonna give them a sunburn or it is too much, it's too hot. These things are habit driven many times. If you have not been in the sun, well, then you don't feel like going so much because now you avoided it and I don't know, distanced yourself from it. But I think sunbathing for 10 to 12 minutes every day, Yogananda ji said, and generally it is accepted also scientifically, is very good and necessary for the body, for the immunity, for the cauterization of many germs. Yogananda ji actually gave a healing technique which I have shared with many people, many doctors. I remember one pediatrician, her own son was not responding to cough syrups and all. He had a very stubborn cough for almost 4 weeks. And I taught her something Yogananda ji taught, that let's say 10, 11 a.m., the sun is in a slanting position. And Yogananda said, open your mouth if you have a cough. And he said, you allow the sun rays to fall directly in the mouth at the back of the throat, little bit in the nose also you can do that. And he said, feel the warmth of the sun over there. Then tense and relax the mucosa. You can tense and relax the muscles over there a few times. And he said that brings a lot of prana, and directly the sun rays, when they fall over there, they cauterize the germs. And he's absolutely right. People world over, we put our beds, mattresses, foods before we store them. Sun drying is a phenomena. Everyone knows about it. He brought it into healing. And I tell you, that lady told me, She said, one morning, my son did it just for 4 or 5 minutes, and then a little bit in the evening, and she said his cough stopped. And so, again, we should not think of nature cure or healing from nature, from deep breathing. Let's say we were talking about fasting. Well, when you feel hungry, if somebody says, I really feel hungry, Yoganandaji said, okay, you can have food, but before that, why don't you go outdoors where there is a nice breeze or fresh air at least? And he said, take 12 deep, slow, deep breaths. He said, if you do that, somehow, and I've done that many times, headaches go away, craving for tea or coffee goes away, hunger goes away to quite a degree. At least you can postpone those things and break down the habit of excessive dependence on them. So that is the value of sun. Coming to, you asked about vitamins and such. Again, I would bring back the focus on proper Eatarianism. It's good to be a vegetarian. The nervous system is kept a little bit, you might say, in a more calmer state. So for those who want to meditate, and generally also a plant-based diet is known to be healthier. But over there also, let's not be fanatical, friends. Once in a while, if, let's say, you want to have a milk-based food item and you feel that is what you need, well, go for it. Or have some paneer. Or if you don't want to do dairy at all, if it does not suit your constitution, sprouts can be a wonderful thing. Mixing the vegetables, seasonal vegetables, instead of I don't eat this, I only eat that. Mixing the grains. There are many ways in which we can circulate different food products. And now, as you may know, there is a lot of revival of traditional recipes or food items that were kept on the side, but people are bringing it into mainstream cooking once again. So I feel there is a lot of nourishment. Mother Nature knew when she was creating all these plant products what we need. But if we limit our diet to only a few items and not include a wider variety, then naturally, in a matter of time, some deficiency may come. And remember, it is a responsibility to keep the body healthy. So to be too fanatical about certain things, I feel, one may have to pay the price for that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Aditya ji, for bringing such lovely topic and the discussion and the flow and the way you explained it is really wonderful. Thank you, Aditya ji, for coming.
Thank you, Kavita, and thank you everybody for watching. It was wonderful to share these beautiful teachings. God bless you.
Dear friends, let's take a small pause, and here we have discussed so many things. You loved it, I know. So we will cover so many other points on right health, meditation, death we were discussing in the very beginning. Thank you for watching it. And friends, please register for yourself for the upcoming program, which is going to held on January 26th on how to achieve glowing health and vitality. The registration link is given in the description below. Thank you, friends. Thank you. Please share this video with everyone.